Hi guys, it's Cassie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with 10 things that no one tells you about pregnancy. I got this idea to start a series over on my channel about 10 things no one tells you about being a mom. So this video will be about pregnancy, my next video will be about breastfeeding, and then I'm going to be doing one about labor and delivery and possibly postpartum. If you have any other ideas that you'd like to know about, comment down below. If you want to know the 10 things that no one tells you about pregnancy, then just keep on watching. So these were 10 things that I found out while I was pregnant, and I was kind of like, nobody ever talks about this. I feel like as a first-time mom, you just only hear that pregnancy is amazing and you love it. So the first one is that abdominal separation is actually normal and really common in pregnancy. So if you've been following my YouTube channel, you know that I have been recovering from diastasis recti, which is the proper term for the abdominal separation. My physiotherapist actually said that it's super common because your body has to make way for the baby, so your abs kind of separate. And in some women, it just kind of goes back to normal after. I was one of those women that it did not, because it kind of separated super far. So that's something that you should be asking your doctors about in your postpartum period, just to have them check how your abdominal separation is and whether or not you need to be doing some exercises to kind of correct that. I was one of those people that my diastasis recti was pointed out during pregnancy because I would sit up and my stomach would bulge, and my midwife was like, that's not normal, that's diastasis recti. I was aware going into the postpartum period that that was something I was going to have to correct, but not a lot of people are aware that that's something that happens and that they may have to work towards to fix. And if you don't fix it, it can be worsened in your secondary and future pregnancies. The second thing that nobody told me about being pregnant is that it will change your posture. So I am now 4.5 months postpartum, but I'm still standing like I was when I was pregnant, with like chest up and my pelvis tilted forward, because that's just kind of how my body got used to carrying all of that extra weight. And I just figured that that was something that was, oh, it's because I'm pregnant, you got the pregnant walk. But no, it didn't correct itself after pregnancy, and it's something that I have to be conscious of when I'm standing, that I'm not standing with my pelvis tilted forward, because that's what my body got used to after 9 months of walking around like that. The third thing no one tells you during pregnancy is that your heart rate actually increases, your resting heart rate. I'll actually show you guys. So I use a Fitbit, and I just happened to notice that my resting heart rate had jumped like 20 beats per minute when I was pregnant. Okay, so if you look at this, hopefully it's in focus, you can see that further on in my pregnancy, no, I don't want to buy anything. So my resting heart rate before I got pregnant started out at 66, and then jumped up to almost 78, and then kind of dropped towards the end of the first trimester, and then climbed up again to the very highest that it ever was in July, August, and September. It was 87 beats per minute. So currently my resting heart rate is 63, so I'm not pregnant now. But your heart rate jumps up like crazy because it's working extra hard for the baby. And so that's why you can get out of breath a lot easier and stuff like that. So I thought that was something kind of cool to look back on, that you can literally see when I got pregnant and kind of follow that journey with my Fitbit. The fourth thing that no one tells you about pregnancy is that your core body temperature rises. So some people may know this because a way of tracking pregnancy is charting your basal temperature. I've never done that, so I don't really know anything about that. But what I do know is that I was pregnant, like really pregnant in the summertime, and because I was so hot all the time, like doing anything required like a ton of effort. We had to get an air conditioner because I couldn't stand, like I was always so hot and sweating and dying. And I think that people should tell you that that happens, because if you're going to be like me and get pregnant in January, you're going to be miserable in the summertime if you live somewhere where it gets hot. Just a forewarning. The fifth thing no one tells you about pregnancy is that your feet and your hands will swell. So some people think that your feet just swell in relation to preeclampsia, because normal swelling is a sign of preeclampsia. However, I did not have preeclampsia and I was really swollen. So I got engaged while I was pregnant, and my ring size halfway through my pregnancy was a 4. So they made my ring a 4.5. I was only able to wear it until I was about 32 weeks pregnant, and then it no longer fit. And now that I'm 4 months postpartum, my ring is actually too big. So I didn't realize that that happens. And sometimes the swelling doesn't go down. So one of my feet have always been bigger than the other, and post-pregnancy, it is still bigger. I feel like that's something that people just don't talk about, that your like hands and your feet will swell. It is not always a sign that something's wrong, and it might not go back down to normal. Like, I remember constantly, if I have a desk job, and if I sat for too long during the day, I looked like I had sausages on my feet. It was ridiculous. So again, getting pregnant in the summer, then you can't wear sandals. But then getting pregnant in the winter, your boots aren't as flexible. The sixth thing no one tells you about pregnancy is that your chest will get really, really veiny. So this obviously depends on your complexion, but I noticed about towards the end of my first trimester that my chest and my breasts just were like blue lines, and it looks really creepy. And now that I am 4.5 months postpartum, I still actually have a very veiny chest and breast because I am still breastfeeding, but it's super creepy looking, and I really wish I would have known that that was going to happen. It is normal, but it really freaked me out the first time. The seventh thing that no one tells you about pregnancy is that not just your boobs and your belly will get bigger. So I did mention the swelling of the hands and your feet, but I think that people are just like, oh, you know, your stomach gets rounder, your boobs get rounder. That's kind of the things that you think of when you get pregnant. For me, my butt got bigger when I was pregnant. And when Camden was born, and I'm now 4.5 months postpartum, my butt is actually smaller than what it was before I got pregnant, which is super odd. That was kind of the first thing that I had started growing out of, was bottoms, and it was because my butt no longer fit into anything, which is crazy because what does your butt have anything to do with being pregnant? But somehow baby weight goes to your butt. The eighth thing that no one tells you about pregnancy is that you will have the most wildest dreams. And I'm gonna share one that I had when I was pregnant. It has to do with the increase in hormones. So I had one that it was towards the end of my third trimester, and I was pregnant and I had a baby, and it was a girl, it was a baby girl, and the doctors were looking at the baby and they were like, she's not ready yet, and put her back inside. And like, she needed a little bit more time to cook. I remember waking up the next morning being like, what the heck? That was the one and only time I think I ever dreamt about having a baby girl. All other times I dreamt about a baby boy, but that was super freaky. I would also dream that my baby would come out with a red beard because Connor has a beard that has red in it. Those were like the two creepy ones that I could remember. And it's totally normal during pregnancy because of your higher levels of hormones. The ninth thing that nobody tells you about pregnancy is that you will get these killer, and I mean killer, leg cramps in the middle of the night that will send you shooting out of bed. Yeah, I did not know that this would happen and that this was normal. So I would be like in bed, you know, half asleep or asleep, and I would wake up in like excruciating pain because my muscle was like contracting, and the only thing that felt good was to get out of bed and like stand on my tippy toes. After doing some research, it was like, yeah, that's normal. Some people say that it's caused by low magnesium, and there was a few other things, but my midwife was just like, sometimes that's just what happens. And a fun fact, my mom, when I told her that I started having these, she was like, oh yeah, I remember that from pregnancy. And I'm like, okay, thanks for telling me. But then she started having like sympathy Charlie horses in the middle of the night. So the 10th and final thing no one tells you about pregnancy is that your baby can prefer a side and your stomach will look lopsided. So for some reason, I always had this vision that like pregnant bellies were nice and round, and you know, sometimes they were longer or whatever, but they were always like a round shape. No, my stomach was always in this weird lump off to the left side because Camden would stick his butt out, and so it was like this really weird shape, and that's totally normal. But I did not realize that that was something that happened and that you would walk around with a weird looking stomach. I also had this like flat spot on the top of my stomach, and then it would get bigger, but it was not perfectly round or like oval or anything like I had expected. And people don't talk about that pregnant bellies can look really weird. So those are the 10 things that no one tells you about pregnancy that I wish I would have known more about when I was pregnant. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see the rest of this series. Don't forget to check out my blog, which is linked down below, and also follow me over on Instagram at Cassie's Corner. Until next time, bye guys!